Good evening, everybody, and welcome to College Football Wraparound. I'm Cooper Naylor, and as you can see, I'm not in my normal studio. That is because tonight I wanted to give you a glimpse of our outdoor set here on Saber Broadcast Network. So, good evening and welcome. We are live from Hartsville, Alabama, and what an incredible night of college football we've got, and a lot of news, really, that we've got to get to tonight. Of course, if you saw the thumbnail, Ollie Gordon, the running back from Oklahoma State, there's some news surrounding him. So I'm going to get into that in just a moment. The Mountain West has inked a new broadcast deal where they're going to show 14 games on truTV and have the game streamed to the streaming service Max. That is something that has been finalized. Also, we're going to go through my rankings 9 through 12 because that's where we're at. This is the third week of me breaking down my rankings for you. And then, of course, lastly, we're going to leave you with some other talk, which is we're going to go back and look at who has officially been moved with realignment. And then also something else to mention, which I'm going to get into it next Tuesday night, and that is Blake Anderson from Utah State has been notified that there is an intent to have him fired from within Utah State. So, of course, there's still a lot of moving parts to that story. We'll get to that next week. But this week, I wanted to kind of wait and see how that story evolved until we covered it here on Saber Broadcast Network. Either way, let's get into tonight's topics, and that is first, we're going to start with Ollie Gordon. And this article comes from CBSSports.com. And it says Oklahoma State running back Ollie Gordon II was arrested on suspicion of driving under the influence over the weekend, according to News on 6 in Tulsa, Oklahoma. First of all, not the first college football athlete to have suspicion of DUI. This is not anything new for college football or college athletics for that matter. And then it goes on to say the Oklahoma Highway Patrol noted that Gordon was driving 17 miles per hour over the speed limit and swerving in and out of traffic lanes when he was stopped. Then, according to 24/7 Sports, the state trooper that pulled Gordon over said he detected an odor associated with an alcoholic beverage. After initially denying that he had alcohol, Gordon admitted to consuming one drink. He also had 2 bottles of liquor in his vehicle, according to the arrest report. And, of course, Gordon was booked at Cleveland County Jail and submitted breath samples. And so it goes on to tell about all his stuff. He was over the legal limit on the breath sample. Clearly, driving under the influence. Another thing that puts a wrench in this whole thing is he is under 21. So that does put a little bit of a wrench into this whole situation. Now, do I think this is going to affect the way that Coach Gundy is going to play him? I don't think so. Because you got to think about it. This was probably the best running back in the sport last season. Of course, that is a conversation for another day. But that's just an argument to be had, is that he's probably one of the best running backs in college football. He's got a lot of upside. And he has this happen. I don't know. I don't think this is a good look for him. But this is not the first guy to do it. Now, one of the most notable guys, in my opinion, that I remember getting caught with something similar to this is Baker Mayfield. Back years ago when he was playing at Oklahoma, you remember he got caught for DUI while at Oklahoma. Of course, it didn't affect the way he was put out on the field and played. He was fine. So that's kind of the same situation I think it's going to be in practice. Mike Gundy may come down on Ollie Gordon a little bit about this whole situation and say, hey, you got to be better than this. You cannot be doing this kind of mess. But at the end of the day, this is not going to affect his playing time. All it may do is get him some punishment within fall camps before the season begins. That's all that's going to happen. So for Ollie Gordon, he's fine. This is just not a good look for him. And plus, if you're an NFL team who is scouting him for next season, this is not a good look as well. So, of course, we will await and see the remainder of the story. So, of course, if you have any comments on that, please leave them in the chat. Of course, I'm going to get into the chat here in a little bit and answer your questions. So, please be submitting your questions for whatever you have with college football related that you want to know. So, that's about Ollie Gordon. And then let's turn our attention to the Mountain West. Now, as I previously told you, the Mountain West has inked a deal with TNT Sports, which is truTV, and then streaming on Max. Now, what is my opinion on this? I think it's a good deal if you're the Mountain West. Plus, I'll say this. If you're TNT Sports, you've lost the right. You basically lost the rights to the NBA. I mean, it's pretty much a done deal. The NBA won't just come out and make an official announcement, but that's another conversation for another day. But you can see that they're wanting to get more aggressive with getting college football content and college basketball for that matter as well, because you see that they inked the deal with the Big East for college basketball rights, which I think is a really great deal if you're TNT Sports, considering the fact that you just lost the NBA, and then you just plug your NBA guys into that, and there you go. Solution found for that situation. But getting back into college football here, I think this is a good move. You're basically saying, okay, we're losing the NBA. We've got 3 different packages that we're signing that could all equate to the same amount as money that we would have paid for the NBA. And we're getting 3 different things instead of just one singular thing. I think this is a good business move. Football in general is going to bring a lot of viewers. I think the Mountain West, for that matter, I think will bring similar viewers than what the NBA did. Because the NBA for a regular season game was getting like 1 million viewers. The best Mountain West game, I think, can get a million viewers. That's my opinion, folks. So you look at these matchups here, and I'm going to go to the full screen for you. So you look at it, you've got Sacramento State against San Jose State, Thursday, August 29th. That is Pacific time it's in. So that would be 10 o'clock Eastern time and 9 o'clock here in Alabama, where I'm sitting right now. And then San Diego State, and I'm not completely sure who that is, the other logo. Either way, that's Saturday, August 31st. That would be a 7 o'clock kickoff here in our time zone. And then that you got Wyoming and Idaho, September 7th. And that looks like it's going to be a maybe 2:30 game for us here in this area. So you see that they got a lot of interesting matchups. And I'm just going to leave it on the screen for a few more seconds just so you can get an idea for what matchups are going to be on truTV. And again, I think that what you're going to see, because first of all, CBS Sports and TNT Sports have had a great relationship over these past few years, 13, 14 years, because of the whole March Madness deal that they have. So a lot of the same people work for both not Turner, but TNT Sports and for CBS Sports, namely Kevin Harlan. So, I mean, coming back to me real quick, I think that this is a move that if you're TNT Sports, you could just be like, hey, some of you that work for CBS Sports, just come over and do 1 game a week, and we'll be fine. I think this is how that's going to work for them. Plus, I just think this is a great move in general. I think this will be great for TNT Sports. And so, again, like I said, you're basically replacing the NBA with 3 different packages. So, it all works out in my opinion. So, what is the best matchup I see on here? I think the one that I really would be circling is that September 14th at, I believe that looks like 9:30 here, which would be New Mexico State and Fresno State. That's a very interesting matchup considering how good New Mexico State was last season, and then Fresno State is always interesting to see how they do. So that's an interesting matchup that I think a lot of people are going to want to watch. So that is the Mountain West deal with TNT Sports. So now, here's your chance. We're 11 minutes into the show. Excuse me. So if you have any questions, this is your chance. Put them in the chat, and I will answer your questions right here, right now, so that we can get an idea of how, what is something you want to know within college football right now. So go ahead. This is your opportunity to ask me some questions. Also, do not get alarmed if the camera's shaking because the dog is up here, and so because I'm in the backyard right now, so that's what we'll call our outdoor set is the backyard. So, of course, if you have any comments, put them in the chat. Of course, I will answer whatever it is. So, this is your opportunity. Also, coming up, we're going to be talking about a lot more when it comes to realignment and to my rankings 9 through 12. That's what we got coming up. So, of course, just leave me some comments in here, and we'll see what you have to say. First of all, though, Colton Naylor, he replied with fire at the beginning of the show because he really enjoys the show. Nice to see you here with us, Colton. So, of course, all right. Well, let's go ahead and move on to our next topic because we have some stuff we want to get to here tonight. So let's talk about realignment within college football, folks. Of course, we are in a time where, of course, we waited a couple years for this to come to fruition. And so now here we are. So here we go. And I don't think this is probably not everybody, but this is now the big four, or super four, or whatever you want to call it, now that there is really no Power Five. Let's be honest, there is no Power Five. If you think if you think the American can be thrust in there, you're wrong, because you can't. You just can't have that. So, it is a Power Four is what we got right now. So, getting on with with what I was saying. So we will start with the ACC. I'm going in alphabetical order just to tell you who is in what conference now. So ACC is adding Cal, SMU, and Stanford. First of all, how did the ACC gain teams? Well, first of all, it just comes from the fact that Pac-12 collapsed. Once UCLA and USC left, the Pac-12 just collapsed, folks. So if you're the ACC, you're just capitalizing on teams that were available. Now, do I think that this hurts the integrity of the sport, having California having to go all the way to, to New Jersey for a football game? What sense does that make? So, if you're looking at it from a standpoint of how we used to be with college football, the tradition, everything that came along with it, this is really a sad state of affairs for college football. Now, do I think that these teams could have success in the conference? That's yet to be determined, because here's my one thing. Cal is one of those programs. Well, if we're talking football wise, they'll have a good season, and then for a few years it's just not that good, and then they'll have one good season and not so good for a little bit after that. So, most notably, they had Aaron Rodgers, Marshawn Lynch back years ago. So, if we're truly looking at this, I just don't know. Are we truly going to see a world where Cal, SMU, and Stanford actually can have success. To be honest, even though SMU hasn't been in a quote unquote power conference, I think SMU has a better chance than Cal and Stanford right now. Now, Stanford does have a better history with college football, but at the same time, they have not been that great over the past few years. So, SMU, I think, has the best chance to have success at this moment within college football, within the ACC. All right, turning the page to the Big 12. Again, this is just teams that are leaving the Pac-12 that the Big 12 was able to capitalize on. They've picked up Arizona, Arizona State, Colorado, and Utah. Now, there's an argument to be made about how good these teams can be. Personally, if you're looking at a power conference that could be just completely wide open, I think it's the Big 12. Here's the reason why I say that. Because I think Oklahoma State has a chance they can win the conference. Utah has a chance they can win the conference. I mean, as much as I hate to say it, Colorado probably does have a chance just because it's second year of Deion Sanders. You got Shedeur Sanders there. Travis Hunter's still there. Colorado's going to be scary to watch this season. Arizona, after the season they had, even though they lost their head coach, I think they still are going to be an interesting team to watch. Arizona State, I mean, I don't know if I want to completely discredit them yet. Even though they were terrible last season, I still think that it's going to be interesting to see how they play. So here's the thing. And then you get into Utah. Utah just seems to always have a good football team. Utah is going to be a great football team this season as well. So you look at it, the Big 12 is honestly the most wide open conference. And really, I think this is going to be 4 great additions for the conference. And I mean, let's look past football. You look at college basketball, especially men's. I mean, you're getting a powerhouse in Arizona. And then, I mean, Colorado is a decent basketball team too. Arizona State's been decent. And Utah, I think, is the one that's not as great in basketball, but they can still, I mean, they've had good teams in the past. So here's the thing. I think the Big 12 is in a win-win situation when it comes to who they just picked up. When it comes to football or basketball, whatever it may be, the Big 12, I think, has picked up some great teams here. And then you look at the Big 10, you got Oregon, UCLA, USC, and Washington. I mean, Oregon is one of the top 3 teams in college football right now. I believe my rankings, I had them at, I believe it was 3. That sounds right. I'll fact check that in just a minute. But Oregon's in there. UCLA, I mean, they lost Chip Kelly this year. That's going to be interesting to see how they do without Chip Kelly. I mean, we'll just have to see. UCLA is just a difficult place to coach, in my opinion, just because, I mean, to be honest, college football is not really big in LA. I mean, it is big, but it isn't big in LA. When it comes to UCLA, I feel like they're kind of second fiddle to USC, which USC is in the Big Ten as well. USC is really an interesting case here. And the reason why I say that is because if you look at USC, this season is going to be interesting. This is going to, I don't know if this season completely proves how they're going to do in the Big Ten, but I think this is a good benchmark. And Lincoln Riley, this is, I mean, him as a head coach, this is the best conference he's going to be coaching in as a head coach. Because, I mean, at Oklahoma, he's in the Big 12. And then, of course, he goes to USC, Pac-12, a little bit easier competition, where he still wasn't incredible. So, in the Big 10, how is that going to be? And I'll show you where I have them. They're not going to be showing up today. That's for sure. So, we'll find that later and show it to you in the coming weeks as we dive more into my rankings. And then finally, we look at the SEC, Oklahoma, and Texas. Them two are the ones that started this whole realignment phase that we're currently in. And so, how do I see all this going down for Oklahoma and Texas? Well, first of all, if we're truly looking at this, Oklahoma and Texas Football is going to take a minute. Now, I will say both. Well, let me rephrase that. Both of them are going to be really good in football. Okay? The only reason why I said it's going to take them a minute is because I don't know if either one of them can win the conference yet. But they're going to be really good. And so, Oklahoma and Texas, they're going to be, I mean, at worst, I think, at worst, 8-4 is like the worst these two teams are going to do this season in the SEC. So, when you truly look at it, it's really interesting, in my opinion, because you look beyond football. I mean, softball. Have you watched any of their softball? Oklahoma and Texas is just are powerhouses within softball. Okay? Especially Oklahoma. Because Oklahoma just seems like they cannot lose. And then you look at baseball. Texas is one of the best baseball teams. Don't get me wrong. So, when we're talking about Oklahoma and Texas coming to the SEC, I do think that they are going to bring a lot more winning to this conference. And if you think about it, is the SEC really going to lose any national championships? College football championship, college basketball, men's college basketball, that may be the one that's the biggest toss-up, to be honest. Everything else, they should sweep the board. So, I mean, very interesting stuff to get into with realignment. The SEC, in my opinion, are the clear winners here because they picked up two incredible franchises. And really, I mean, it's a toss-up between SEC and Big Ten. But in my opinion, the SEC won it because it's Oklahoma and Texas. They're going to be better. Oregon, UCLA, USC, and Washington, they fit the Big Ten narrative, which is this. Which is not a bad thing. But when you're talking about sports, it's not incredible. In a sense. But they're more worried about the academics instead of the sports. So, yes, it's good to have great academic schools within your conference. That's what they pride themselves on, the Big Ten does. But when it comes to sports, nobody can tell me the SEC is worse than the Big Ten. Or any conference for that matter. So, that's just my opinions on realignment. And now, final topic is going to be my rankings, which is ranked number 9 through 12. So, here you go. I've got Missouri at 9. I got Tennessee at 10. Florida State at 11. And Michigan at 12. First off, let's start with Missouri. If you watch how they did last season, they were incredible. The one thing I think is going to be interesting is to see how does this offense evolve past Cody Schrader, who I believe who went to the NFL. So that is the biggest loss if you are Missouri. You lost Cody Schrader, another really great running back within the sport. So Missouri, I think it's going to come down to how does their offense evolve this season. And I think there's reason to hope that they would be really good. Number 9, I think, is a fair spot for Missouri. And so, Missouri, I think, it fits. You look at Tennessee at number 10, I think the biggest question is Nico Iamaleava, how does he do? I think that's a big question for him. I think he's got a lot of potential. And, I mean, if the bowl game is any indication, which, I mean, really, can we get much of a bowl game, folks? No, not really. But here's the thing. I think that this is going to be a great season to see, is he truly as good as the hype has made him out to be? If he is, then this is going to be a great season for Tennessee football. And quite frankly, it could be close to, and I mean, for those of you who are not fans of Tennessee football, you may want to cover your ears. But this could be a really great season, even better than 2 years ago with Hendon Hooker as the starting quarterback, when Tennessee, had they not lost to South Carolina big, potentially they were going to be in the college football playoff. If they would have beat South Carolina, I think there's an argument Tennessee could have been in that playoff. So, I mean, If you disagree with me, you can put something in the chat. I'm fine with that. But there is, I think, a legitimate argument to Tennessee having potentially gotten in. But that's besides the fact. Then you look at number 11, got Florida State. Here's the thing. You're playing in the ACC. Do I truly believe that you're really one of the... I think there's 10 teams that are better than Florida State right now. You've seen it over these past 3 weeks with me telling you. Florida State at 11, I think, is a good spot. I think the thing that hurts them is just the constant turnover with the transfer portal. I know it's like the new way of how college football is going, but does it truly work? I mean, that's the question I think we all got to ask ourselves. And does the transfer portal really build success within a college football team? Because even some of these teams that have won, they've still had a core of players that stayed. So can we truly trust that Florida State can win, having not had a lot of continuity, except for head coach? That's a good question I think you've got to ask yourselves, folks. And then number 12, Michigan. Look, Michigan's the defending national champions. It was an incredible season for them last year. But here's the reality. You got to come to reality, and that is Michigan right now, they lost Jim Harbaugh to the Los Angeles Chargers of the NFL. Then, look at all these players you've had drafted. Yes, it's incredible to see how many players you had drafted, but at the same time, Michigan does not come back and have the same success as like some of these other teams do. With all that being said, number 12 is a good spot for them. Sharon Moore, I think, is going to be a pretty good coach for you. But does that equal success? I'm not sure, to be honest with you. So, Michigan at number 12, I think, is a perfect fit for them. Well, folks, if you have any questions, go ahead. I'll take some questions if you have any here tonight. And if not, this is just fun. I will say 7:30 is going to be our permanent time for the remainder of the summer, because I believe that it's a better time for you, the viewers. And so you can count on 7:30 is the official time coming up. So be on the watch for that. But, what a great show this has been. And just a great opportunity to come out here and do some great content for you. So it's been fun, and we will see you again next week. And I will give you an update on that Blake Anderson situation with Utah State and get you more with that. Of course, like I said, I just kind of didn't want to dive into it yet because I wasn't completely sure what was going on with it. I just saw a headline, so we will get into that next Tuesday night. But with that, thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you again later. Good night, everybody.